Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The chairman of the Law and Justice Party, Jarosław Kaczyński, announced that the issue of the election of Magdalena Biejat, a feminist from the Together Party, to the leadership of the Parliamentary Social Policy and Family Committee will soon be resolved. Biejat was elected thanks to the votes of Law and Justice deputies sitting on the committee, which made the decision all the more shocking to Conservative supporters. The left has warned that the dismissal of Magdalena Biejat will be a violation of parliamentary custom.
Wydaje mi się, że Prawo i Sprawiedliwość
Law and Justice has become hostage to fundamentalists and radicals. All those who do not like the presence of Magdalena Biejat push Jarosław Kaczyński and force him to break parliamentary custom.
Łamanie zwyczaju parlamentarnego.
PiS sam zdecydował.
Law and Justice decided to allocate parliamentary committees to particular parliamentary clubs, both in the opposition and in the ruling camp. The left committee got a family commission, therefore any other candidate of the left probably has similar views as Magdalena Biejat. So with full awareness, Law and Justice decided that the chairman of this committee would be someone with comparable views.
Poglądy jak ma pani Biejat.
Tutaj ja sądzę, że na tę decyzję
I think that this decision was not influenced by any special negotiations within the United Right camp, but rather it is an admission of an error, as it was defined, and a conclusion drawn from that error. It is better to correct this mistake now, as going further with it would definitely harm Law and Justice in the areas of credibility and social support.
zdecydowanie w moim odczuciu szkodziło.
Prawo i Sprawiedliwość
The president of Law and Justice, Jarosław Kaczyński, did not reveal how he specifically plans to resolve this matter. As he said in an interview for Gazeta Polska Weekly, he does not want to go into details, but just as in life, there are various twists and turns in politics. The left, however, is not going to let go of this matter easily. As the group's politicians announced, they will not allow Magdalena Biejat to be removed from the chairmanship of this committee.
Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki handed acts of nomination to 4 new provincial governorates, or voivodes, today. The new governor of the Lubelskie province, or voivodeship, is Lech Sprawka, and Tobiasz Bachiński is a new governor of the Łódzkie province. Konstanty Radziwiłł was appointed the voivode for the Mazowiecki province, and Łukasz Mikołajczyk became the governor of the Wielkopolskie voivodeship.
Podejmując się tej bardzo ważnej roli,
Gentlemen, when you take on the position of a voivode, you commit yourself to a very important work in the field. The heart of Poland beats just as strong in big cities as it does in smaller towns, provinces and villages. We firmly believe that the work we have done so far is a step in the right direction. We're building a Poland which develops equally everywhere. We're building a country which grows in strength not only in huge conurbations, but also in smaller cities.
kiedy budujemy Polskę równomiernie rozwijającą się.
In August next year, Poland will celebrate the 100th anniversary of its victory in the Battle of Warsaw, also known as the Miracle on the Vistula. In the summer of 1920, the Polish army halted the Bolshevik invasion on the outskirts of Warsaw. The battle has been recognized as one of the 20 most important battles in history, stopping, as it did, the spread of communism to Europe. 100 years after this historic victory, it is still unknown whether and when a monument will be erected to commemorate what is one of the most important events in Polish history.
One of the avid supporters of building a monument commemorating the 1920 Warsaw Battle is the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki.
Jestem zwolennikiem tego, żeby
I am all for building a triumphal arch as soon as possible. I personally contributed to the foundation which collects money for that goal. I think that the triumphal arch would be a proper form of commemoration. Unfortunately, there is a necessity to cooperate with the Warsaw City Hall, and therefore please ask the mayor of Warsaw why there is no monument commemorating such an important historical event. The Warsaw local government is not cooperating, I'm afraid.
pytać też władze Warszawy.
The city officials stated that they will not cut off the idea of a commemoration of the great victory of the Polish army in 1920.
Mam nadzieję, że to jest trochę nieporozumienie i
I hope that there is a misunderstanding here and Mr. Prime Minister a bit too quickly formed this opinion. We will be investigating the history of that project, and as far as we know, at present the only problems were with consultations with the City Historical Relics Conservation Office. I talked about those matters with the Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Gliński, and I think that there is a problem with the communication.
informacji.
The initiative of the commemoration of the 1920 victorious Warsaw Battle is not new. It was started in 2014 by Jan Pietrzak and his foundation Patriotic Society. His numerous attempts to communicate with the city of Warsaw on the project were left without an answer. His foundation was lobbying for the construction of a triumphal arch visible from every part of the city.
Myślę, że to jest jakiś taki monument.
I think it should be a monument which would be immediately noticeable on the Warsaw skyline from any point of the city. This is a commemoration of a battle which decided the fate of the world, the Western civilization, the battle that stopped the Bolsheviks from taking over the Western Europe.
W Warszawie.
Against the project is the Polish United Left. The politicians argue that the money that might be used for the monument would be better spent on social matters.
Yesterday, Romania's centrist president, Klaus Iohannis, secured a second term in office after winning the presidential election runoff, easily defeating his opponent, the socialist former Prime Minister, Viorica Dăncilă. Iohannis has pledged to resume the judicial reforms slowed down by successive Social Democrat governments.
Both candidates spoke with the press as they visited their local polling stations to cast their own votes. Iohannis underlined that his re-election would be crucial for Romania, maintaining good relations with the EU. Good morning. It is a very, very important day. I have voted for a modern, European and normal country. I invite you all, dear Romanians, to come and vote. It's an extremely important day. We vote for the future of Romania and the path that Romania will follow. Today, the champions are those who have the voting stamp in their hands. Dear Romanians, you should all be champions today. Dăncilă, on the other hand, stressed the need not to let one man become too powerful and promised to better protect Romania's national interest.
Am votat pentru o Românie care să meargă înainte.
I have voted so that Romania can move forward, not backwards, to the times when we didn't have rights or freedom because one man only had all the power. I voted for a mandate at Cotroceni that will have more involvement, more work, more respect and commitment to the Romanian people and our national interests. I have voted with all my heart and from the bottom of my heart for Romania and Romanians.
Pentru România și pentru români.
According to two exit polls, Iohannis won in a landslide, winning between 64 to 67% of the vote. In his victory speech, the president stated that his win was also a victory for a European Romania.
România a câștigat.
Romania has won. The modern Romania, the European Romania, the normal Romania has won today. The Romanians were today's heroes. The number of people who went out to vote was impressive. This is the biggest victory of today, the fact that the Romanians went out to vote.
Au mers.
President Iohannis was the main obstacle to a succession of socialist governments which, according to critics, lead Romania on a collision course with the EU, along with its Central European peers, Poland and Hungary.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. The forecast for tonight calls for cloudy and partly cloudy skies throughout the country. There's a chance of fog in the cities of Zielona Góra, Bydgoszcz, Lublin and Rzeszów. The temperatures will drop below zero on the eastern coast. Tomorrow we can expect to see showers in Szczecin and cloudy skies in the west. The rest of the country will see partly cloudy skies and the temperatures will vary between 1 and 8 degrees. The next 3 days will bring showers to the east on Wednesday. By Friday, the rain clouds will move up north, where we can expect the temperatures to reach as high as 6 and 8 degrees. That is all for now. I thank you for joining us, and I invite you to stay with us for Poland Daily Business.
You're watching Poland Daily Business Edition, and tonight we will talk about energy. That's why I'm so excited, because it's a very interesting topic. Wojciech Jakubik of Business Alert is our guest tonight. Sir, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
And Poland is a part of the European Union, one of the big 6 countries of it, and west to us is Germany, absolutely leader in many aspects of technology, environment, and so on. The Germany had the Energiewende that was phasing out the coal-based energy, phasing out the nuclear in favor of the renewables, photovoltaic and wind energy. Are there any lessons that we in Poland can learn from this example?
There is no way for any revolution in energy sector. We see that Energiewende, which means the energy pivot, energy revolution towards renewables in Germany, is hampered by objective obstacles on its way, because you cannot just switch from coal and nuclear immediately to renewables. In the end, the German plan is finished with increasing coal generation, because Germans decided to go 100% renewables and to switch off all the nuclear plants at the same time. It shows that nuclear might be useful. There are rising voices inside Germany that Germans should stay with nuclear power plants. They wanted to quit using nuclear until 2022. Now they discuss if they should prolong the use of nuclear energy, and it is impairing the whole concept of Energiewende, because Energiewende comes from the 70s of 20th century. It is connected to anti-nuclear movements, and the basic assumption is that nuclear energy is immoral, that you cannot use it because it's a sin to use it. It's connected with nuclear energy, and it's really bad.
Like
so
nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
So this is why there is this gap in logic, that on one side we don't want any CO2 emissions, okay, because it's greenhouse gas, because it causes instability in climate, it increases bad things in the atmosphere. We can believe it or not, but okay, that's logic. Then we go to photovoltaic and wind, but we also switch off the nuclear plants that don't emit anything.
Yeah, and we need to back up those renewables with conventional energy. And in the German situation, it is the brown coal, lignite, the most emittive resource ever, because it's not only CO2 emission, but also some sulfur and other kinds of chemicals that going into air, and they disrupt the clean air in Germany. So they finish the revolution with result of higher emission, with more not clean energy. So it's not going too well right now, but we'll see how they will manage to achieve this goal with energy storage. That could be a saint grail of energy that could change the status quo
As
totally.
you said, the Germans are coming to their senses and finally discuss maybe keep those nuclear plants that are already built, already capitalized. The capex has been spent on it, going until their natural end. That will be probably another 30 years or so, because that's a long time investment. The energy storage you mentioned, that's a very interesting part, especially in terms of producing the power from, say, offshore wind farms, that also Poland is looking into very much.
Yeah, because energy storage could bring a real revolution into energy system, because if you have market-oriented energy storage, it is you can mix it with 100% renewable energy mix, so you can have all energy from renewables, because you can back up it with energy storage. But for now, this technology is just at the beginning of its road. It is not marketed. It is not cheap enough to go to the market on a big scale.
That was my question. Have you looked into the economics of such projects, and are they viable, let's say, in case of Poland? Because it really removes the energy storage, removes the major flow in renewables, because not always the wind blows, the wind not always have the right speed or right energy, the sun the same, it's not always shining. On the other hand, when it does, it would be nice to store it and release at the time when the energy is needed.
And that's the concept, but looking at the cost of energy, if you compare nuclear energy with renewables and energy storage, the nuclear energy is cheaper in the end. So you have an economic discussion about it. The politicians need to decide what to do, also in Germany, like in Poland, and we need to look for some evolutionary way. The revolution, like 100% renewables tomorrow, is not working. We see it in Germany, and Germans are also thinking about some evolutionary steps. There is no way of revolution in the energy sector, and even if European Commission is really, really ambitious, the national states like Poland and Germany will hamper its ambition because you have objective obstacles on the way.
In the Germany, there is another thing that is not often mentioned. The wholesale price of the electric power is like half of the price in Poland, yet consumers pay twice as consumers in Poland. How do you explain that?
We have a different approach to energy consumption in Poland and Germany. Germany is a wealthy society, and they can afford to pay more for energy because of the ideological goal of having it clean. So Germans are heavily supporting this Energiewende. In many polls they support it. They want to pay more for energy to have this goal of clean energy. But in Poland, the price of energy is a bigger part of budget of any house, and Poles are not so eager to pay more for energy because of this goal of having clean energy. They want to have cheap energy. Poland is on a different stage of development than Germany. Poles want to have more and more energy. They want to develop, not to restrain itself. So we need to find some solution that is more adjustable to Polish condition.
You just mentioned another thing that brings to life another question. What about prosumers? Those who have their households and wants to produce their own power using photovoltaics, hydropower or wind power.
So in Germany or Norway, it is really fancy to go off the grid, not to get any energy from some big corporation supplier, but to have it on your own. And in Poland, it is also a rising trend to have your own photovoltaics.
Are
especially
our utilities happy with this trend?
They are happy actually with photovoltaics because many companies, even PGNiG, the gas company, are thinking of investment in solar programs because the government created My Electricity program, Mój Prąd program, which brings you some financial support when you want to bring photovoltaics on your roof. So it is a rising trend, and photovoltaics could bring a positive change to Polish energy market on condition it is connected with changes in other sectors of power generation.
Well, thank you very much for that insight. Wojciech Jakubik of businessalert.pl portal. That's in Polish, but also there is an English version, right?
Yeah, businessalert.com.
Right. Please check the portal, visit and read the stories about business and economy. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube channel of Poland Daily Live. That's it for tonight's show, sir. Thank you very much for participating. And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily Business Weather. The forecast for tomorrow will bring cloudy skies to the west, where we will see a chance of scattered showers in Szczecin. The eastern coast will see mostly partly cloudy skies. The coldest spot on the map will be Białystok, where we will see a high of 1 degree, while the warmest will be Katowice at 9 degrees. In Europe, we can expect partly cloudy skies in Moscow, Kiev, Warsaw, Bucharest, Vienna, Bern, and Rome. The rest of the continent will see cloudy skies with a high chance of rain in the UK, Lisbon, Paris, Berlin, as well as Sofia, Ankara, and Athens. The coldest city tomorrow will be Moscow, with a high of -3 degrees, and the warmest will be Athens, where the temperatures will reach as high as 19 degrees. That is all for now. I thank you for joining us, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening.
Good day everyone, my name is Maria Kądzielska and this is Poland Daily Culture. He used to be the member of Knesset for Israeli Labour Party, the Secretary General for Labour Party, and the Deputy Speaker of Knesset. He's one of the Israeli politicians who most often visits Poland. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Yehiel Bar.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
But before we start the interview, let's listen to part of his speech.
It is a great honor for me to be here this evening with you in Warsaw, an evening where we come together to honor, to thank, and to respect the righteous Polish heroes, people who risk their life in order to save others. My friends, it's no secret that the last couple of weeks have not been easy for Polish-Israeli relations. But I believe that we are stronger than that. I believe that Israel-Poland relations was strong and should always remain strong.
Yehiel, you support an effort to grow greater attention to the righteous among the nation over and over again. And you again, this time in Poland, to do the same thing, actually. Tell us more about it.
Well, I'm doing it because you need to do what's fair and right. And these people, righteous among the nations, Polish, did during the war, during unbelievable, incredible circumstances, while endangering their own life and life of the family, what a lot of people wouldn't do. And this is to try and save Jews. And as you probably know, Maria, saving Jews during the war in Poland, you put in risk not only yourself, but your family. And we witnessed a lot of cases when the German Nazis killed these people with their entire family just for hiding Jews, trying to save them. And I think that as a Jewish person who is a grandson of a Holocaust survivor from Poland, my grandfather Jakub Kotowski, some kind of adapt to these kind of people, although they didn't save my family, unfortunately. By the way, if my family would have met people like them, probably some of them would be alive. They weren't lucky enough to meet these kind of heroes that saved Jews. But I think that coming here as a grandson of a Polish Holocaust survivor and say after many years, thank you to these people, it's the least I can do. And this is why I support these kind of events, awards, these events specifically from the depth of Johnny Daniels that makes a lot of efforts to commemorate Holocaust, but also to say thank you to these kind of heroes that did what they did over 70 years ago. And could you tell us the story of your family? Well, yeah, my grandfather, Jakub Kotowski, was the son of Yitzhak, Iche, and Gittel Kotowski. Iche Kotowski was my great-grandfather, and he was like the head of Jewish community of a small city named Skulsk here in Poland. They were a good family, a big family, a pretty wealthy family, and actually, unfortunately, this is why they were taken first when the Nazis came to their village. So my great-grandfather was a rabbi. He belonged to the Jews the Gurniks that believed in the rabbi from Gura. And he died eventually in Majdanek. And my great-grandmother Gittel died in the forests of Józefów Bilgoraj here in Poland. Luckily, my grandfather and some of his sisters were saved, but all the other brothers and sisters, including both of his parents, got brutally murdered by these Nazis here in Poland. And it's a sad story. You can ever even start to imagine what would happen if they were all alive, how big of a family we were. But thanks God, my grandfather survived the Holocaust. He made Aliyah to Israel. He met my late grandmother, Yael Pedatzur, who made immigration to Israel from the UK, from Manchester, and this is why I'm here. So in a way, it's also a victory of my grandfather and his family, a victory of the Jewish spirit over the cruel and barbaric machine of the Nazis. and this is why I want to come again and again to Poland, to make sure that the Israeli-Polish relations will be good. I know that it's not all the time very good, unfortunately. I think that Poland and Israel, in a way, have a depth to maintain good relations. We have a shared history. We have good history and bad history. We have a history of 1,000 years of Jewish life in Poland. You can see it in the amazing Poland Museum here in Warsaw. And we have also very bad history. Fortunately, Poland is still the biggest cemetery of the Jewish people in the history, made by the German Nazis, of course. We had here an amazing Jewish community, maybe the biggest in the world, a lot of culture, a lot of things to be proud of, until this bloody war came and erased this heritage, very fancy and strong heritage of Jewish people. So this is part of the story of my family, and this is why I also went to visit Skolsk for the first time a couple of years ago, saw the exact place where my grandfather lived with his family. We allocated even the cemetery, the Jewish cemetery. Today you cannot see him, it's just a pile of dust, but you can see where it was. You can hear from the citizens stories about the time that Jews used to live there and work there and be part of the community. But thanks God and a lot of other things that he survived, and I'm very proud to be here, and very proud also I led in the Knesset for almost 6 years the friendship group between the Knesset to the Polish parliament, and in this frame we made a lot of joint ventures and events. And I feel that part of my duty is to learn history, to make people not forget our history here, but also to build the next stage of relations between Israel and Poland.
And thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
And I think it's a grand punchline to say to build a friendship between two nations who share 1,000 years of common history, which we always should focus on. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
With its roots in the uprising of November 1830 and encouraged by events elsewhere in Europe, including the success of the Italian independence movement, and take advantage of a Russia weakened by the Crimean War and the reforms introduced by Tsar Alexander II, the uprising of January 1863 was the longest lasting in post-partition Poland. Although it was ultimately unsuccessful and Russian reprisals were swift and ruthless, its engagement of all levels of society went on to have a decisive influence on the subsequent development of Polish society. This is the story of that uprising.
It didn't satisfy anybody.
Exactly. That's part of it. And of course, it's probably worth pointing out is that in the background, of course, apart from this sort of romantic feeling about getting Poland back, there'd also been in other countries. In 1861, I think it was, it had Italian unification.
1861, yeah.
Yeah, 1861.
Garibaldi and his actions.
Movements in Germany, movements in Hungary, were in train. So of course, the Polish
later.
the Polish folk who thought about this, they would also sort of think this is a generally European, a sympathetic time to be trying to move forward in terms of liberating.
Garibaldi was very nice because when the January uprising broke out, he said, "Do not forget Poland." There was
and indeed, there had
support,
been some Polish sort of, if you want to call it, fighters who'd been training with Garibaldi's men in Italy, ready for the...
In Italy, Francesco Nullo. That's perhaps the only Italian who has a monument in Warsaw.
Because he died in Poland.
Yes,
in
he
fact,
died
yes.
here in one of the first battles, very bravely. Francesco Nullo is a Polish-Italian hero. The same with François Rochebrune, who led a band of let's say French special forces. He also joined the uprising. So in November uprising, it's mostly Polish. January uprising is joined by many nations. I mean, once I was working on that, and you can always say that of Ukrainians, Belarusians, Lithuanians, first of all. No, but okay, you can say that these are, in a sense, these are Poles. But you've got Italians, French, Hungarians. I mean, there is a huge support. I mean, the Polish case was perhaps at that time had the best opinion, the best press of all times. I mean, during the partitions.
But that would because largely because as we saw in the previous program, one of the effects of the great immigration would be there'd be a lot of people, quite prominent people, who would of course be pushing the Polish case.
We mentioned
throughout Europe. So again,
Walewski, we mentioned Branicki, we mentioned a number of people that we've mentioned.
So this would be feeding into this general feeling that the time had come for Poland to try to throw off. Well, of course, and I think it's probably worth, when I say throw off, of course, there were two schools of thought that were the sort of, as you hinted at earlier, there were sort of the whites who were more for a sort of gradual liberalization, if I can use that word, of Poland.
To suffer patiently,
but gradually. Sort of Fabian type approach. And of course the Reds...
Procrastination? No,
well, no, but I think Fabianism is all sort of gradual, not getting too excited too quickly. And of course the young guns of the Reds, who were sort of impatient, ready
young
to...
sports.
Yes, ready to actually fight. And of course you had the setting up then in 1862 this national committee. Which was a sort of underground, an early idea, a sort of underground government, which at that stage was sort of agitating and not actually fighting as such.
No, it was mostly preparing.
Exactly.
Because the yet another difference between the January and November uprising. November uprising was a surprise for everybody. No, except the plotters.
Yes.
But here it was very well prepared. I mean, it wasn't prepared to the maximum because Wielopolski counteracted in January. And
well, I was going to say, Wielopolski had this sort of feeling that something was afoot.
I mean, he knew very well that Poles were cooking up something,
and they were likely to go in the spring of 1863.
Exactly, and so that's why he called for a enrollment.
Conscription.
Enrollment.
12th of January, if my memory serves me correctly. 1863.
In the cities.
Yes.
In the countryside, it was the date was a bit later, and that's why, because we can ask that why the uprising broke out on 22-23.
I think he'd felt that if he sort of conscripted folk, well, young men actually.
I mean, he have very bad lists.
In winter, that would sort of put paid to any revolution, because it had a completely opposite effect, because the reaction to that was on the 22nd of January 1863. The National Committee sort of called itself, I think, announced itself as some sort of provisional government.
Provisional national government.
That's right, and we want to see the return of Poland to the 1792 borders, and off we go, and all things Russian to be to me. I mean, sorry, I'm summarising radically, but I mean that I think was was a sort of the final moment when the uprising broke out.
In fact, and you are very right in saying that, the 1863 uprising was the last attempt to restore Poland within its borders from before partitions.
So that's a pre-17... sorry, 1772. Sorry,
1772 before the first partition. So with huge parts of Belarus, not Belarus in total, Lithuania, Ukraine, and so on and so on. And when you look at the maps of the staff, for example, of the January uprising, I mean, you see that these guys. Okay, I was not to say that word. These people.
Well, they were. They probably we're safe. We're back in the 19th century. They probably all were guys, actually.
These people fought in these terms. I mean, they would draw maps of pre-partition Poland, divided into voivodeships. So the way it was there before partitions, not into gubernie and so on and so on. So they really fought as if they were, 80, 70 years before.
And that's
exactly. Fascinating.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another thrilling edition of Poland Daily Travel. As you can see, we are far out in the countryside, right in the middle of the country. Well, not quite in the middle, a little bit further south than the middle. And we're about 2 hours from Warsaw, from beautiful downtown Warsaw, the illustrious capital of Poland, of course. And we're on our way to a fantastic little city called Sandomierz. Now, as you can see, the November mist has rolled in. But it's not November yet, it's October. And, well, with a little help from the weather gods, we will be revealing a magical trick, because things should be a bit brighter a little later on. And in fact, quite warm. Because yes, this is Indian summer. You can see the corn has been harvested and the colors are perfect. It's beautiful out here. And Indian summer is still continuing. We've had about a week or 10 days of it so far, and supposed to go through the next several days and be quite warm as the sun comes out. And I think, now that's just traffic I hear. I thought it was maybe a moose. Just kidding. There are no mooses here. Or a moose or mooses, I'm not sure. At any rate, we're going to speed ahead and see what the beauty of Sandomierz has to offer. It's a little town on the Vistula River, where the Vistula is joined by the San River, which runs from southern Poland, from the mountains in the Bieszczady region. So this is going to be an exciting day. This is a nice medieval town. We went to Kazimierz on the Wisła, on the Vistula, several episodes ago, and this city is kind of a sister city to Kazimierz. Sandomierz is also one of the oldest towns in Poland. There's lots of medieval buildings, and there's a castle, and all the things you expect from a good old European ancient town. So we're going to leave the fields now. And what does Poland mean? It means field, people of the fields, the Polani, the Poles. That's where we're standing now. Anyway, we're going to get back in the car with my two friends and cameramen and sound men and we're going to speed along, and the next time you see me, the sun will be out. That's a promise. Stay tuned. Well, how about that? After the bumper, you come back and you get exactly what I promised. Because with the benefit of modern weather forecasting, we can see what the weather's going to be like a couple of hours down the road. Literally down the road in this case, because we've come all the way from Warsaw to Sandomierz, 3.5-hour journey just to bring you this view and more. This is only the start, because this, right now where we're standing, is one of the main streets of the old medieval town of Sandomierz. The tower on which I'm standing right now, the Opatów Tower, is about 33 meters tall in this area anyway, and it was built in the 1360s by Casimir the Great, who was, of course, one of the most important kings in the history of Poland. He's the one who built a network of fortresses and trade towns, of which this was one, during the 1300s, during his long reign. Incredibly important guy. The other thing to remember is that where we are now, we're about, as I said, 3.5 hours south of Warsaw. We're also about 2 hours and change north of Krakow, and somewhere out there actually, we'll find Lublin. Of course, the Vistula River is behind me, and you might just see it gleaming out in the distance there. That's the Vistula River, going that way to Krakow, and this way winding its way toward the north and Warsaw, and eventually Gdansk. The town here is, therefore, it's in Świętokrzyska, the Holy Cross Mountains. It is set alone, in a sense. And the reason it was so important in medieval times was because of its location on the river and near the San River, where it flows into the Vistula just to the north in this direction. What we can also say about the town is that nowadays it's more famous for its appearances in movies or television series than it is particularly as a, let's say, a municipal center. Although it is the center of the local farming trade, and we can see a lot of different processing factories and things like that as we look out over the town. But our main concern is going to be right here. We're going to be going down into those streets, and we're going to be looking at the most important landmarks in this very special place. It's a gem. It's well worth the trip. If you're on your way to Krakow, or you're going from Krakow to Warsaw, this is right on the river. It's a good stop, and highly recommend it. Over to this direction, you can go over to the Holy Cross Mountains, where we were last week, and see some more amazing scenery and beautiful castles and the like. Okay, Poland Daily Travel. Stay with us. We are going to show you Sandomierz. Stick with us.